Greetings, one and all. It says, I am Saint Germain, and for those who have never encountered my presence before, I greet you. And he talks about the purple violet energy of love's forgiveness that he calls forth from the heart of the great central sun, the great, great silence, where the greatest activity of God's angels are. Into this room tonight, and bless each one of us as we transmute our lives with the purple violet energies of love's forgiveness. We can call upon that energy personally to work with us to cleanse and purify things in our life, every discordant pattern or thought or discordant things in our life, whether it be health, wealth, love, and life. So he says that when we feel that our life is threatened for some illness or even a terminal one, we can call upon the purple violet fire of love's forgiveness to consume it in its entirety. All the misdirected energies are being reclarified and reprogrammed to be a positive benefit to mankind and to the universe. He says, I greet each one of you and your higher selves as well. He said this evening's agenda he's talking about will consist of 3 parts tonight. He says that he's brought an Indian Calamine, a master called Calamine, to us tonight to speak about the golden energies of the 5th dimensional consciousness. And he says that will be followed by beloved Lord Saint Germain with his talk on karmic consequences manifesting into the world, and a prominent one that all of you have been concerned with autism, among a few other things. And he says it will follow it up by, he talks about the great Lord Kuthumi will be here to give you a special a special blessing and attunement and a short talk. So he says that the Lord Calamine, who comes, he's dressed all in white with a golden turban. It has like a long white hairs, like things coming out the front. It's kind of like a special emblem on the front of his turban. It has these things sticking up. Anyway, enough of the description. And I get a greetings, everyone. And he also does in the Indian way to bow to the inner light to everyone present. And he says that in this way we greet the higher self, and the higher self greets us in return. So it is we call upon Divine Mother, he says, to bring forth the divine enlightenment that is here present to help us in today's matters in our 5th dimensional consciousness. So he says, when we think about the 4th dimension and 5th dimension and Einstein's theories, and all becomes very confusing. But he says we live, as was described earlier, before the arrival here today, was that we have shell lives, and that is that each part of our physical form, surrounded by ethereal form, surrounded by astral form, your mental, emotional bodies, and higher levels of consciousness that goes up in dimension. Each one's like a shell on the next one. He says, to put it bluntly, he talks about Shrek and his layers of onion. Though he assure you in the spirit world and higher there are no Shreks. He's putting a little humor out there. So he says, so much for the Pixar Corporation. With the Master Calamine saying that in the respect to the Divine Mother, he says that he's taking us to the creative energies of Divine Mother rather than away from the Shiva energies that cause change and discord and change. So he says that the world today is in a belief system that the Shiva energies of destruction are about us, and that we're all caught in some great calamity that will emanate our going to a next plane, perhaps en masse in the entire planet. He says nothing could be farther from the truth. As there's been other civilizations, even ones that have covered the entire planet with their presences or human presences, and since then their remains have gone to the dust in the natural way. So he says to put aside the fears and confusion that the people that would play upon your fears to control you would do presently, whether politically, religiously, or just the discontent with the way things are presently. He says obviously there is going to be a great change upon this planet in the way of finances, and he says there will be a great coercion of souls, both in this side and that, to work together to bring about a better plan, a smaller plan, rather than something that it can't be fulfilled, promises that cannot be fulfilled. He's not come tonight to talk about political venues. They're ready to support any type of candidate, no matter where they are on the earth, whether they're running for a neighborhood committee or for the president of this country, United States. So Master Calamine's talking about the fifth dimensional consciousness, of the golden consciousness, is very likened unto the samadhi energies that you find in India, which is more of a saffron color, which is a sort of an effervescent, deeper pink, a reddish pink. Well, there's another level of samadhi that reaches to the gold energies of the fifth dimension. And when we think about that plane, just thinking about this cloud of golden, sparkly light all around the planet, the connection of our thought, of imagining it, is bringing that energy into our body this moment. We've opened up that channel just by bringing up that thought. And what it is, it's beginning to expand and bringing from your own higher self, your other shell consciousness, the divine plan, the divine architectural plan of your physical embodiment and your life. So we will begin to see changes in your life and changes in your body that will correspond to a higher level of perfection. So he says that as you go up in dimension, the human form becomes more symmetrically perfect in many ways. So he says today's order of the lecture is how do I meditate to bring these things in? Some of this here, as of Indian descent, could place ourselves perhaps in the lotus position, where one sits with their legs folded and their hand cupped with the lotus flower in your consciousness, and in the center of the lotus flower is the pearl of wisdom, which some in the Orient would consider the pearl white color, and others to consider the golden orb within the white jasmine flower, or lotus flower. Lotus having 1,000 petals. So it represents our own consciousness and our supreme awakenment in the 1,000-petal pineal gland in our center of our brain, the crown chakra, as some refer to it. So he's saying that in our meditative way, we can sit in the Western style with our feet together, with our knees apart, and our hands on top of our kneecaps, in the seeing in our mind's eye that the pearl of light that should reside is in the teachings of Saint Germain in the very center of your heart. It's getting bigger and brighter and bigger and brighter, brighter and bigger. And as you do that, it's beginning to expand geometrically to encompass all of it. So in a moment's notice, we are actually in the very center of a very large orb of light that's ever expanding. This golden light of the fifth dimensional consciousness of higher perfection of your own self. You're in the fifth dimension and higher, he says, are other levels of our own being that we might not be aware of. And he says that's the purpose of meditation, is becoming aware of our other selves. They're not off some far distant galaxy, but right here inside of us. And each one perhaps not being attuned of the existence of the other one. The higher selves are more or less aligned and more or less aware of their consciousness, and also their independence and their independent personality traits on each level. But the density has become geometrically dense in our physical form, where all the light that we are is compressed to such a small form that now we've taken on the physical properties of the physical universe, which in our present embodiment. So it is that when one ceases to exist and they pass to the other, or higher plane, I should say, he says the physical form, if in our mind's eye, instead of being morbid and thinking of bacteria and worms and things like this, we see that person's light dispersing back into the universe from what was once their physical form, will be a great benefit to those who have passed, even those who have passed years ago. So we ask you this moment to take a moment and think about all the past loved ones that you love, of family and friends and others, even of world leaders, that their embodiments are turning to light. You know who perhaps have given their life in valor, honor, and found their demise in a immediate explosion of sorts in the Mideast or anywhere else, that they still had a form there that exists in sort of a quasi-state, and we can see them also turning into light and dispersing to the universe. It frees the soul to a higher plane of consciousness. It cuts the psychic cords of connection to the physical, dense matter, and it frees the mind so that we now are not focused on the earth, but focused on ourselves and our expanding consciousness, which is why we're here tonight. The fifth dimensional consciousness is ever expanding, and you, each one of you, become an orb, a sun unto yourself, shining so bright that we're illuminating others' lives. So those things that we found depressing in our own are so outweighed and more or less blown away by this spiritual light within us, a spiritual wind of sorts. A whole in dimensions was bringing balance to chaos, because we live in the world now of chaos, which is the third dimension, and the fifth dimension brings order. It says, why not the fourth dimension? Because it's so close to this third dimensional consciousness, other than being able to see through things, you still have much of the physical properties. But as you begin to approach the fifth dimension and higher, a lot of the physical physics of the universe are less applicable. He says there are quantum factors and formulas that can predictability by design for things in a fifth dimensional consciousness, and he directs that remark to Mark. So in this way today, he says, I acknowledge the higher self of each one of you, because you felt and found the divine calling of the infinite I Am presence, as Lord Saint Germain refers to God. Whether we call the God Vishnu, or we call God Allah, or we call Yahweh, or the many other names attributed to God, and different aspects of God, still, all in all of existence and everything is in the divine presence, part of the divine presence. So we can call certain qualities in to assist and help us in our present needs. So in our present need, we need inventors to realign the consciousness of mankind toward, rather away from destructiveness and toward constructiveness that will give an economy to the world of sharing. Not everything, sometimes it's intellectual property, and other times it's physical property that's been manifested by the hands of many. He's sort of the mind of taking us away from robotics and more toward the human intervention, so that it provides a purpose for the many lives who finds their life purposeless presently. He says, in bringing in the fifth dimensional consciousness, and as the pearl expands within us and shines out in a light that radiates out beyond our aura, so it is that we began to fill others around us with this fifth dimensional consciousness. He said when Christ came to earth, he talked about the Holy Spirit, and a part of the Holy Spirit is the golden fire, and the part of the golden fire is the samadhi consciousness that they speak about in India, or another middle level of the higher fifth dimension. So when we bring in the golden fire of light, it consumes everything that's not of its own perfection. So we ask it to consume, just like the purple violet energy of the beloved Lord Saint Germain, everything that is impure, all the thoughts that other people have thought that are misguided. We purify this moment in his invocation and prayer. It's Lord Caliph is Calamine is directing us. So he says you take a moment here to expel your breath. Then we draw in through our nose the golden light. And as it fills up our lungs, we hold for a moment, then we let it out slowly, but the light by intention stays inside of us. And as we began to do this in our meditation, you not only are drawing the beneficial oxygen in your lungs, and you're pushing out all the dead air in the bottom part of your lungs by expelling it all, but we also fill every cell of our being with needed nourishment of light that we are denied. because we do not spend in our mundane lives the time it takes for meditation to draw in the fifth dimensional energies. He says, picking up on a previous lecture of Goddess Kuan Yin, on that connection point, which where the baby, it's after it's born, has a soft spot. And he says, he makes a little joke about we are in the soft spot of God, the heart, and that's why he helps so much the planet Earth and the humanity. But reaching out, he talks about like an invisible cord connecting to that spot on the top of your skull, which when you were a child would have been considered the soft spot where the sutures and your skull come together. That triad point, there is a center there to receive light, and as we extend by intention our own umbilical cord to the fifth dimensional consciousness of ourself, our own self, we're drawing our own energies from us, not from anyone else, from us, has our fifth dimensional personality that comes through with that energy. So we might find that our mind will become a little brighter, the clarity of our thinking will become a little clearer, and the other things we thought that were perhaps amusing in its crass way will cease to have entertainment for us, for we'll find some of our intellectual side may be stimulated, and our own spirituality and virtuousness will begin to manifest by our own accord. He says, in this way we can live a life of example to others in the fifth dimensional consciousness. Lord Calamine disagrees with others whom a speaker you may hear in the future that talks about 5,000 to 6,000 years he refers to the Earth itself in a normal ascending energy would have reached the fifth dimensional vibration for everyone and everything, plant, animal, and mineral, everything present on the Earth. But we can accelerate that now by deliberately lifting our consciousness to total peace. And supreme bliss is where the samadhi consciousness of Vishnu is. So he says, imagine there you begin to meditate and you find a supreme smile comes over your face that you cannot diminish, because it's a happy energy of divine light. It cannot be directed in a hateful way to others with a mispurpose in the way that some people use their own psychic energies misdirected to hurt or harm others. It can only be used in a positive way. It's like connected to divine love, and like a fire hose of that. So wherever a person you think about, they're receiving this loving fifth dimensional energy. It brings a natural smile and happiness to you within. So we think and suggest that we should spend a fair amount of time in the beginning, and as we need to, in a meditative way, to reflect on our lives of bringing in a higher consciousness. Record notes. He asks you to do that so you can see the changes in your lives, so that you will have strengthen your belief system and the reality that you are bringing forth, you're manifesting. He says it's true, we create our own universe. Would you rather be connected to your fifth dimensional universe that you've already created? So your higher self, the fifth dimensional consciousness, in this energy transfer to your physical form, that your physical form and all the cells, the particles of light and atoms and the such will be such filled with energy, will be a part of itself, and you begin to feel a wholeness, not an emptiness with you any longer. You feel the confidence, the security, the I am that I am presence in you. And you'll find that others will look to you for strength, because now you've found that inner security that is you. And this is also the connection to the divine I am presence through your own fifth dimensional consciousness. So Lord Calamine gives the bow to all of you as he recedes back to give the chair to beloved Lord Saint Germain, who's come in to speak presently. Greetings again, my Chela, my pupils, which means student. I bless all of you, and he surrounds you all with the purple violet energies of divine love and of love's forgiveness. And he says it was a pleasure to hear from Lord Calmine tonight, speaking about the fifth dimensional energies. And he says to get to the subject whereby it brings so much alarm to many, and perhaps to one in this room who is personally attached and has her doubts about, the effects of mankind upon our own offspring that might affect their physical form and their minds. So we also consider that some people, perhaps in other times and places, have been in extreme trauma. Then they need a lifetime whereby it's a lifetime where they can ease away from the extreme trauma, where the following one would be a normal one. So nothing, they're going to carry a child that may have had a terrible experience in a previous life is going to carry to the future life if they so choose to reincarnate. So moving on, he says of the discussion today has to do with the autism and other afflictions of children that are happening so profusely. He says in the order of all things that we choose when we will be born for the specific vibration and lessons that we need in order to progress as a soul to the graduation point of the next round. The rounds being defined as 500 years, 250,000 years, 26,000 years. And there are shorter cycles which he doesn't count. He says what it is that in these cycles we have great gatherings of souls that go to higher dimensions to take up lives of a more meaningful part of God's great plan and the extension of the universe. So he says there are many orders of things to be done in the universe, which he's not going to cover presently. But he assures you they're quite exciting and extensive, and gives us our own individual creativeness and solutions in order to make things happen for the divine, to bring about divine order. That's where we're headed. So he says as a group, because of our choice and choices, then you find certain groups who are aligned where you have kindred souls among that group. He says this is such a group as that of kindred souls, where there is something in each one of us that we've known each other many times before in many lives, and we keep re-encountering each other as part of a team of kindred souls. It helps with this aspect of what we're involved in presently and in other projects in the past and in the future that helps mankind and civilization advance. He says that sometimes when with birth, with the conception, and then you have birth and you have the maturating of the individual into what they're going to be. And this planet presently in the civilizations is going through some birth pains, especially the size of the number of individuals incarnate presently, as well as always the political climates. He says he assures you in past ages where the populations were smaller, but it's sort of closely, densely pushed together in a small landmass, tended to be the same type of thinking, the same type of energies as present today worldwide on a more grand scale. So this, he says, is the end of a 500,000 year round. He says that the estimates of some scientists saying that the Earth is 9 billion years old is diminished. He says our solar system's far older than that. And he thinks it's ridiculous trying to use the very many cycles of things that have happened in our planet's atmosphere with radioactivity and other things, even in natural order and solar winds and the different cycles of our sun, can influence our instrumentation in such a way that we can't give an accurate calendar reading, even of year 2012, December 22nd. So, beloved Lord Saint Germain says, in respect to going to the subject tonight with autism, he says that many of the souls chose to come into embodiment in experiencing that now because as a group they perhaps were involved in some other experiments and things on others in past ages, and now they must pay the price. He talks about the Merchant of Venice as being one of Shakespeare's plays, whereby he talks about the pound of flesh is due. So what it is that we can escape our karmic obligations, or that we've done to others, though in practicing the forgivenesses. And one can act as surrogate to do the forgivenesses for that person who may not be sentient enough to understand how or what the implications of it is to do that. So you can do that for them. And he's speaking to one individual here in our group tonight. So the lifting of that person's consciousness and bringing in the fifth dimensional energies for them will bring more clarity to their thinking and bring forth more maturity in their mental, emotional body, where they can take their adulthood among the shoulder-to-shoulder peers in the world today. In other words, not to worry, but it can be by your own actions that you can do, only because of the blood ties as well as the commitment we made to the I Am Presence before we came into this world to be their physical guardian angel. So he says that raises a lot of questions about parenting, is that we take on that responsibility of some other souls who will join us who may be discordant in their own ways. He says that to address something as autism, or this particular mental or emotional physical condition, or that, he says, is a stretch. It's a symptomology. It's a set of energies and thinking that's come together to manifest this. He says, do you know how many different formulas there are for making gingerbread? And it sort of pretty much tastes the same, but you can, if a skilled tongue can actually tell the differences and the different additives that made that particular batch different from another one, or some different from another way it's made on the planet. So when you find people that have been dressed as autistic, there is so many variations that you can't really address it as that, other than have similar symptomology. So these souls have made some decision to quicken their payment system to come back to the normal line in the center of our soul development. If we go a little too far to the right or a little too far to the left, then there's always course correction. So sometimes with severe diseases that people are finding today, whether it's because of the karmic energies that create that type of thinking, to create the pollutants and other things that's causing or bringing about these things in our society today. So if there wasn't the need for that, then those things wouldn't have been invented, and these people wouldn't have that condition. So he says that looking retrospect is never a good thing. What if I did this or that? Because you're trying to second guess the order that God has placed, the laws in place for these things to be self-sifting, self-adjusting. So he says the karmic conditions of today are very variable, and it's because of certain dispensations placed upon this planet now that allow people's opening of their consciousness such that they're becoming more responsible for their most recent mental and physical present desires and their own machinations of toward existence. So what it is, we need sort of a cleanup of the planet according to the beloved Lord Saint Germain, whereby the clarity that we require for all of us will be going up. He said by the lecture that was previously given by great beloved Goddess Kuan Yin about the mass consciousness, is every bit of truth in there, because in that mass consciousness there are many disease thinking, and even whether it be addressed and called as autism, or schizophrenia, or a number of other things we find in today's society more prevalent than before. A lot of it has to do with the bringing on of stress that causes the symptomology to deepen, to become more severe. So how can we relieve these individuals of the symptomology, make it less severe, so they can take their place in a functioning society? And he says that's most important why we're here tonight, according to beloved Lord Saint Germain. So we talked about the purple violet fire of love's forgiveness. It's not been talked about here in this room for a while, as being a divine energy of its hue of light, such a deep purple. It's almost looked like as if it were black when it's a deep purple energy. And it is intelligent, and it is love's forgiveness that God uses as a cleanup. It's more like the dust cleaner of people's consciousness across the entire universe on every dimension. So we can actually direct it into a person, into our lives, into the mass consciousness around this planet every day, many times a day, where it's consuming every diseased thought. Diseased thought is a lot broad spectrum, he says. And that means where you have people doing cunning and devious things to people doing things that are bizarre and strange but not harmful to others. Across this broad spectrum, we can clean up all of that. We can clean up the diseases of the world, the autism of the world. So we address bringing in that purple violet energy into the mass consciousness and dissolving it. So if there were a child of light somewhere on the planet once a second, in their own way, was dissolving the entire mass consciousness with the purple violet fire of love's forgiveness and replacing it with divine love and joy of God's perfect plan, God's perfect architecture plan for our lives, for this planet. If we did that once a second for a student of that particular discipline, then this world would, in short order, come to where it should be. As the Masters considered a balanced world, where you have sensey human beings that are kind and loving, caring about each other, and they work as a synergy in raising the mass consciousness of the planet itself, the spiritual energy of the spirit that holds this physical form that we call home together. For if the mother or spirit of earth ceased to exist, then our gravity would stop and we would not be on this planet. We would be floating somewhere in the spatial matter between planetary orbs. So beloved Lord Saint Germain is saying tonight that some of this is a karmic decision made by the great karmic lords and an agreement with the souls before they came in today. It's to complete their round so they can go to the next level of consciousness. Some of those beings may not end up reincarnating on this planet, but perhaps on one on a higher dimension in a higher universe. Because as you go up in dimension, the expansion of the universe expands geometrically. Each one of us in our physical form may cover several football fields if we could measure spatial consciousness between the fifth dimension and our present physical form. Now, perhaps a person is 32 inches in circumference or less. So everybody's concerned about their waistline and how trim they are. So we should be also of the gluttony of negative thoughts and criticisms, thinking that none of that will come back to us. And as we spew this out, this affluence of negativity, it becomes so dense it's taken on a life in a form of its own, where it's almost ruling the planet. And that's why we need the many light workers, which are all a portion of you, and the many others around the planet, to dissolve the negativity deliberately and replace it with a divine light. Tonight, that Lord Calamine, and before his speech today, previously the goddess Kuan Yin came into this room and talked about the fifth dimensional consciousness and influencing, just bringing the energy into your physical form influences the mass conscious thought form, because it detaches from us. And then just like planetary orbs, by the sheer mass of it, are attracted together by mass attraction, so it is that the mass consciousness would be repelled and attracted at the same time to our fifth dimensional energy. And as that energy, as we are part of humanity's life force, would spread through it, it's rearranging the planetary consciousness, which rearranges our political future for this planet, our economies, and the like. So he asks us to get busy at drawing in that energy into our lives to make that happier, as it spreads out this energy of prosperity, of healthy mentally, as well as physically, happiness to surround the planet. For every good and loving thought that you think that's unselfish, that's intended to encompass others, goes all around the planet and blesses many. There you have a person perhaps in a more primitive culture on some island in the South Pacific who doesn't have the humanities that are present in this room and has no concept of Western culture. Now something is lifted their life just a little bit by a thought that was thought in this room. That's how we influence even things on the other star systems and other galaxies, but what we do here and vice versa. So as a part of the galactic community, planet Earth, as well as all of us as light workers, need to take our place in the higher realms. So beloved Lord Saint Germain wants to speak a little bit further about the autism and the fact that it's a brain disorder missing certain enzymes, and the ability to manufacture those enzymes doesn't exist. So sometimes, just like a prosthetic limb where you don't have an arm, a hand, or leg, or even a toe, though he's not heard of a prosthetic toe yet. He says it's probably coming. He's putting a little humor out there. He says that we can put substitutes in there. So he makes a comment on the oils that have been so talked about in this room and other herbalic treatments. He thinks is a good start. He thinks that in short order, as these things are addressed, that at least in the doTERRA community, and not that he's not co-signing that, he's not telling anybody to run out and buy stock in a company or anything. He says that they, one of many companies, are aiming toward a goal of trying to bring health to humanity as well as cure some disorders, even mental ones, where they're giving them some severe chemical compounds in these mental institutions to try to get some normalcy out of people, and they end up with people that are more or less semi-conscious vegetation, which it grieves his heart. But he says that they chose that life before they came into this life for a lesson, perhaps for the many people that they've caused tremendous mental pain, and perhaps to leave their mind for some actions that they caused. So if you do that to many and enjoy it, then you bring a lesson upon yourself, and now you find yourself in an institution that you put other people in past lives. So he says, see, is what comes around goes around, and absolutely it does. But if we want to keep away from that sting of the karmic wheel and of consequences, it's not by disassociating yourself from emotion and becoming emotionless, thinking everything's attracted to you by emotion. So therefore, if I make myself no feeling, I won't draw it into my life or in the future, considering emotions or empowerment. So, and he said he wants you to think about that later as you hear the recording of this lecture. But he's saying essentially to bring it all to perspective is to continue on with these herbal treatments, and you will see some improvements in autistic behavior that have become less severe, and that's what we want. There's many people that walk around, a person could say they have a trauma or a phobia, or they're damaged in some way. We all are, says, but if you take a diamond under a microscope, it has a lot of imperfections in its finish, because it's not perfect. It's only perfect to the depth of our abrasive that we put upon it. So it is that in our just living on this planet presently, we're plenty abrasive to each other, and also mentally as well, because of all the different religious aspects, whether organized or not, that this polishes us even finer. Someday, he says, when we achieve that cosmic consciousness and we reside in cosmic consciousness, we'll be very polished. So he says the supreme jewel of all is what that we live in, is the I am presence of God. It's the beloved Lord, as I've always called that. He references Abraham in the Bible as referring to the burning bush incident. Is God, what is your name? And God responded, I am. And then for the ages, he's taught all of his students that the presence of God, it is known as the I am presence. So tonight, we can say a prayer for each other and for those who are less fortunate enough not to be in this room to hear these lectures tonight. We can send them the herbology and the healing bombs of our prayers to them to heal the entire planet in the purple violet energy as well as the golden energy of the fifth dimension of consciousness. He said there'll be more lectures in the future, and there will be other masters who will wish to be an inspirational force, because in order to keep a movement going, you have to keep re-inspiring it. He says your car would not keep going if there wasn't a spark to cause a little explosion in one of the cylinders. It's a continual process, and that's how you got to your destination. So they will be giving these little explosions of inspiration and thought-provoking lectures in order to help us gain the altitude of spirituality we need to make that next round ourselves. Now I feel Lord Saint Germain's giving the podium more or less over to great Lord Cthulhu, who has come to give us an attunement here tonight. Blessings to all. I've come tonight to give you all attunement of fifth dimensional consciousness that was hereto unexpected in this meeting, so that all of you become that beacon of light in your own lives and to those you minister to. For I assure you that every one of you, even those who say they're the least important, are the most important in being the minister of spiritual thinking, upliftment to others, being an example, and also in our own self-healing consciousness. So I, Cthulhu, bless all of you, and to give you particularly blessings to those in need in this room tonight of healing, whether mental or emotionally, for those who have passed beyond our present dimension of consciousness, as well as those who are present here tonight who are suffering silently, as he assures you there are. So the great Karmic Lord Cthulhu, perhaps for those of you who do not understand what my function is as one of the Ascended Masters that helps minister with the soul's lessons in life, sort of loosely karmically, as well as the other dispensations I put upon this planet, and bringing mercy to some who are in need of forgiveness. So he says that this forgiveness process really starts within us, and then once we forgive ourselves, then we really need to ask the universe to forgive us, and that includes all the individuals who we've maligned in one way or another through various lifetimes, whether by deeds of enactment or deeds of omission. So tonight, as I stand here present in this medium's embodiment, I send a great beacon of light to touch each one of your pineal gland, your crown consciousness, and you will feel like a glow in your head of consciousness, as well as perhaps a tingling sensation to awaken it to its spiritual potential, and also to give you that connection point to your fifth dimensional self for even a higher realm of meditations. There are many priests in a higher form that have come tonight to assist me, and each one of them is ministering to each one of you. And after they finish these blessings and minor healings on your consciousness and your physical form, they're going to go to your family members and work on them, even at a distance. So do not be concerned about harm or things that's happening to your family members, for they are being addressed as an extended family. So the great beloved Karma Lord Kuthumi bids you blessings as he leaves. And as he's leaving, we have a surprise guest here, the great Red Cloud. The Sioux Indian is a great medicine man and healer. And he has stepped out into this living room tonight to give blessings. And he's also stepped out here to minister to the great sun wheel of consciousness, which he insists resides in the fifth dimensional thinking. Though their system in the Sioux Indian way is not taught quite the way as would be in the Western thinking. He wants to make some loud sounds that may be a little startling. Yeah. Says you get raised shaking a turtle rattle toward each one of you, sending you his blessings of healing to your consciousness, for each of you in one way or another has been injured in a mental or psychic way by perhaps insults, by others, hurt, harm in one way or another, and all is being healed, all is being directed. He's sending the great sun wheel energies of golden light to warmth, inflating a blanket around each one of you of protection and love of the Great Spirit. He also gives in his blessing, the Red Cloud here tonight, is awareness, awakened awareness to each one of you, that you will be continuously aware of your spiritual surroundings, your physical surroundings, that your clarity of mind is become very focused permanently. And as he sends this blessing, this wave of divine energy from the Great Spirit, he says from the Great White Lodge that each one of you has attained a new Spirit Indian helper, a medicine man of your own in this room, who's not formally one of your guardian angels, who's taken on the responsibility to follow you to the rest of your lives. And he asks you that to respect them, for they are not servants, but they are here to help. And as they bring blessings to each one of you, they'll be exciting your own spiritual psychic awareness, your own spiritual psychic gifts, your attunement to nature and Mother Nature. And he talks about that. Some have talked about power animals and they're a nature diva. He says that in our awakening awareness, we'll become more and more aware of life teeming everywhere, and how it loves us, and how we must love it back. So I, Red Cloud, give you the blessing, and he says this energy, this orb of light above his head to the Great Spirit, that it blossom out in a great protective force field that surrounds all of you individually. When you leave here tonight, you will be carrying that with you, as well as the medicine man who volunteered to help you in your journey in life. Yeah. I have my spirit, Dr. Watson, here. It's come to be the officiator and bring our meeting to a close tonight, but he blesses each one of you. He's being funny. He's trying to put out a doTERRA commercial. So, about the oils, says they're pasteurized and refined. So he's just putting a smile on everybody. He says, such a serious talk. He says that he's disappointed he didn't get a medicine man tonight. But he says it's probably because he's already in spirit. So he says each one of us will walk our walk when we leave this room tonight, our separate paths, but always we're together because we're kindred souls. He likes that. So he considers himself part of the kindred soul of this group, as many who are not here are perhaps present in a physical or psychic form to convey that to you, your own guardian angels. So he says, isn't that wonderful from the spirit side of life, that they send so much love to their brothers and sisters, to all of you. So he says that there's a great outpouring of love and emotion amongst all of you tonight from your own guardian angels, who are also part of our kindred brothers and sisters, who are just not here in a physical form. They send you their greetings.